Adrodele Shukin La, Teji so, Tachitanke, Naranso, Songo Doji Tipike, Chuntin Hip, Kapla, Tangbo, Tas, Chonchu, the Senchi Saltapa, to the number gentle, Chitanke, Shulik, Luso Yuarela, Tanda, Terente, Shona, Samson La. Te tuda number jundu chitange ta majun rowa nang ta dong nyam be sen chin tam chi la pembe ge kulon number ta pa ngone tam be chu dub na yon da tam be chu ni na yon da tene te jundu tam be chu nyam su mlembe Sanyan rondu gujianlam la super kawi na yon rate ta songchu senchi kong tong tempa samba sambo tong tempa te kal chege yo la te na ne mixalto ta tanda tambe chu sembe kapso te ni je chitang chi namba kong song bu ne chu la tepa to mo gi ne pepare la re te yin ya ta kong number ta pa tambe chu ta tipa chimbu gi chu ta tempa se de tene majun ruwa nang ta dong nyam be sen chin tang chi la pemba du gi yen de cher do la tang be chu nyam sling gu de cher do la tang be chu nyem ba yin som be kong number ta pa de sal tap ju de kal che gi la tene jun sin ti chen na dan da ya de sal tap ni se na ru chi.
In general, when we talk about the secret mantra of Vajrayana, it's always important that we begin by arousing the mind of enlightenment, arousing bodhicitta. And so at all times and in all situations, it is important that we remember that we are practicing for the benefit of all the sentient beings who are as limitless as space, who have all been our mothers in previous lives. And so it is for their benefit that we are doing the Dharma. It is for their benefit that we are listening to the Dharma. It is for their benefit that we practice meditation. We should even remember that it is for their benefit that we eat, sleep, or do any of the other activities or conducts that we may go about. And so, in general, you all have come here with such a good motivation in order to benefit all sentient beings. And you have come here with this motivation. But it is important to remember it and to thus therefore now think to yourselves that it is for the benefit of all your mothers, as limitless as space, that you have come here in order to practice the Dharma, that you have come here in order to listen to the Dharma, and that you have come here in order to practice meditation and to study the Dharma. And so please plant this motivation firmly within yourselves as you listen.
Yeah.
Dorje
De
beings of the abilities and aspirations of sentient beings, pass through the wheel of Dharma, of the greater and lesser conventional vehicles.
Tene ta kasing ke kapso tanda cherato chepraching andro ye ta chen ye la tene songyo la tene te na ne kasing ke kapso tanda tene tangpo jui chen tang nipa dakwe chen ni ke kor hyupare la tene dakwe chen ke nang la yang cherato konza jip lama to dehi kai lama to tendon chuni je lama to no dai lama te number ye song ye pe na ne ta ka sing ka so la konza jip lama to dehi kai lama la dembe so te ki bare ta tendon chuni je lama ta tering ka so la tendon chuni je lama te tang bo hyo gre.
Yesterday, Rinpoche was discussing the four different extraordinary preliminaries, or the four conditions for practice. And these of these four different conditions for practice, he discussed first the causal condition, and secondly the dominant condition. In the second causal condition, there are the four different lamas that we need to rely on. And so these four different lamas are the individual lineage lama, the lama of the words of the bliss gone, or the words of the Buddhas. The third is the ultimate lama of the Dharma nature, and the fourth is the sign lama of appearances. And so yesterday, the first and second, the individual lama of the lineage and the lama of the words of the bliss gone were discussed. And so today we will begin with the discussion of the third, the ultimate lama of the Dharma nature.
Tene ta te yang ranso ge nyomso lang ne tepa ta mugu ji na gongso su yin na ya tene chuni ji demba te tong ge yore chuni ji demba te nyomso len tu ge yore ti junsen de karire se na tene chitang ge me re mandawa nda bota tene ten ji pa tong pe me ge che par nda bota tene ta tela yen ten che jong da bota tende kanya me pa chu tam ji ge chu ni de sen jin tam ji la cha bi ya pa yin be cher na tene chu ni je ne lu de la be zul su se na ya to ge yo re la tene te tan dam chu ni je la ma se na tene ngaran so gom ja tang bo hin ne gom tene lon tong gom na ten su yin na ya nyam su nyong ju ya pa je ma to ndi ge gom na nyam su nyong gre ndi gom na nyam su nyong ko ma re sen ke yo ma re per na tanda hira nimbu tanda hira ji paru du simbendo hira nimbu ge no ne song na tene ta tela reje po om reje pomo kon lala hira ji paru du simba samu chepa chepar ndepa tin tataran number ta war chate si ta sula poyin reje poyin na yanda reje pomo yin na yanda su yin na ya ta tanda hira ji paru du simba la tawaran ndepa ti dende ta gugre si ne chuni ji demba ta chuni ji demba te tamchi la chapa te ngo ti his ro yin bichena tel tandam chuni ji la masung yo.
So any of us who has faith and devotion, any of us at all with such faith and devotion can meditate upon the Dharma nature, the Dharmata. any of us who wishes to see it and wishes to practice it is able to practice it. And the reason for that is that although there are many different types of people, and there are people who have the supports of the male or the female body, in all of these there is no distinction in qualities or abilities in terms of this. And the reason for this is that the Dharma nature pervades all sentient beings. It is part of all it pervades all sentient beings, and so whoever it might be, whatever group or whatever sex one might be, whoever makes efforts at meditation can realize the Dharma nature. It is something that anyone can realize. It is something that anyone can meditate upon. There is no one who will not realize it if they meditate, and so it is something that we all can meditate upon. And this is something, the reason for this is talked about in the Heart Sutra, in the lines where it says, Shariputra, any son or daughter of a noble family who wishes to practice the practice of the profound transcendent full knowing. And so here it says, any son or any daughter of noble family. So whoever you might be, whatever sort of a bodily support you have, whatever sort of class or family you come from, we all are able to realize the Dharma nature. We all can meditate upon it, and if we do the meditation, we will realize it, because it is something that is able to be known. And so this is what we call the ultimate Lama of the Dharma nature.
Tene ta te ta la ya ta ti ge tandom chuni je lama te ta chitang ge tanda wo ne mi pijing ge kap la ya ta te te sal ge ore la tene te ne ka ma yu na yon de sare tene yeba te no dai lama sung ge la no dai lama te ta tanda chitang ge tandom be chuni ta kunzo ge no ni ore kunzo ge no te tene tang aran su tan tong be chuni ma to be ka so la kunzo ko no ati drip de pa nang kin ti yore re te yin na yang no ati ge ngo la ta na tene ti ge te ge da na bo te la tene tan tong be ne lu te to ya ya ba tene no ati ge ngo te tene rangin ke tombe chuni imbe imbar sondu tene tatela no dai lama sungi warela.
Now, this ultimate Lama of the Dharma nature is something that is also explained a bit later in the discussion of the focal condition. And so at this point, it is probably okay not to describe it in detail. The fourth of the conditions for practice, or the fourth of the four lamas, is the sign lama of appearances. And so what this sign lama of appearances is that we have both the ultimate Dharma nature and the relative appearances. And the ultimate Dharma nature is currently obscured by all these relative or conventional experiences. However, if we look at them, we can see their nature in these appearances. And so we look at the nature of the relative appearances, and then the ultimate nature, ultimate Dharma nature is something that we can realize within this. It is something that we can see. And so, and this is because the essence of the relative appearances is the Dharma nature. And so this is what we call the sign lama of appearances.
Tene ta te ya tanda changcha rolbe doji singi lama je yor amdola ti lama te chitang ge chulu go on de sena ro gelu pare re te yina yon kong ge ta gong ge kor la pe tawa ge kor la ngorje sumare la te la tangur amang sinse tene chuni ji demba te amala pega ne song yore pugu chunchun la ngara pugu chunchun la pega ne songre la tene di na ne sundu te la tene ta pugu ngara pugu chunchun te ame pankala de tene ame pankala de du te la tene ta amala ya jabla ama jabla yore ten pugu tiga don la ta andu te ye la ta yan la ta don la ta tu ten ama yo mare la ta nga ama te la son somni teni te kora pe semti che pe te yendo la ngaran so chuni ge nelu ta seni ge nelu ge nan la yore yore te yina ti seni ge nelu te kana chuni ge nelu te kana la son te hako yo mare tong yo mare nye ge yo mare la te meni tu ta te danje onde sena tere pe onde sena pugla pe ka par pugl ge ama la son du te la ta ngarang don la pinja te yor pinja jojo te yor pinja jojo ti ge a chira ama la mendo chira ama pankala du ga se tu ya jab la che ta tu ne ama nye ge yor pe te yendo chuni je no te ya ngarang su la ge yor te yina no ati ge teni uni danda boji teni o chuni tananduga sonde te ngote yonde teni chuni te nyege yore la teacher na kapndana le nuwa dai la masung yore
lama deki men kyapche
changcha
kyangcha
la cha to changa chang kaya ta cha siki meriki mainda ji changcha.
Okay. There was a lama called Kyancha Rinpoche Dorje. Now, Kyancha Rinpoche Dorje was a Gelugpa lama, and he wrote, although he was a Gelugpa lama, he wrote a spiritual song that really expresses this view very well. And in this song, he talked about the Dharma nature as being like a mother. And so this Dharma nature is the mother, and then there is the child, and we're like the child. And so this is the example that he gives. And so the child is sitting in its mother's lap, and it's looking forward, it's looking straight ahead, and it can't see its mother, and it looks to the right, and it looks to the left, and he can't see his mother anywhere, and he can't find, and he can't know where his mother is. He feels like he's lost his mother. In the same way, the Dharma nature or the nature of mind itself is something that is always there, that we always have, but it is something that we just temporarily are not seeing. We're not finding it, we're not seeing it, and so we feel like it's something that we can't see, we don't know where it is. We're like that child, we don't know where it is. But that child has an older brother who comes along and he says, your mom's right behind you. Take a look behind you. And so the child looks and he sees the mother and he recognizes the mother. And so in the same way, if we look around and see that we are in the laps of our mother, if we are always within the Dharma nature, if we look at appearances in this way, they are like the signs that point us how to look at the Dharma nature. And so for this reason, we call these the sign lama of appearances.
Tene ta te tabu ge ni tene ta ti ge chuni je nelu sena yanda seni ge nelu sena yanda te to ba yung ge yo la ta te la da bu jin sung ge yo ta sumba te ta ngaran su jin ye ge on de sena sumba tene je dang ge chun ting ge on de sena ju ji ba re la ju ji ba te mi pi jin se ge mi ba te yul te la ta chitang ge ngaran so chuni ge nelu la gambe chul ta lab jong se pe ge chul te ni yo la che te ta ngaran so sem ge te ni ta ji si ne som lo ta ne chuni te kana yo sa to kanre do tingo te kanre yo sa to som lo ta ne ta ji si ne te la ji pa lam de se ba se ge Perna Umatan, Hersin la soap, thank you Ganani, Tandesi Yore, then the Tony Re, Chutam Tombani Re, Chutam Tony Nayon, Tenin Noatam Chartugi Yore, Hipa la soap, Gone, Tony de, Chuni de, Chutamchi, la Chapagan number, thank you. 다 디캅트나라 디네 샘게넬루다 체열진넬루 카카마세와 추탐지 디네 땅라고데 다 덴데 레세네 테나 팝네 데 리비게 테나 팝드텔라 디네 나랑게 산라 니히 야보 제지네 오 다데 문네 추탐지 주마동 물람타부 린도 동바니 린도 sombe 니히 제와제라 니히지네 디네 렘지 공기와 Tela Jipalam to Sipasegre.
And so in this way, these 4 different types of spiritual friends or teachers, these 4 different types of spiritual friends are a way for us to get to practice the Dharma and to see the Dharma nature. And so these are called, they are the conditions, and they are called the causal, or the dominant condition for practicing the Dharma. And then we have the third of the 4 different conditions. This is also the 11th session of the text. So the 3rd condition and the 11th session is the focal condition. And so the focal condition is the object that we are looking at, the object that we are perceiving. And so whether we talk about this as the Dharma nature, the way that the Dharma nature is, or the way that the mind itself is, there are 2 ways that we can look at it. We can come to know it through meditation, and we can come to know it through study or training. And so one of these, the first of these, is to sort of examine our minds and to study our minds and to see what they are, to think about what is the mind like, and to use our inference and to find out what mind is like. And this is called taking inference as the path. And so in order to take inference as the path, we study the mind, we study the treatises, and we study the way things are. We study the treatises on the middle way, or Madhyamaka. We study the treatises on transcendent full knowing, or Prajnaparamita. And through studying these, then we come to some sort of a certainty about all things being emptiness, all phenomena being emptiness. And so here in doing this, we do not separate out the Dharma nature and the way the mind itself is. Rather, we just look to see that the Dharma nature is pervades everything, that it is a part of or that it is imbues everything that there is. And so here we are using logic to do this. And so through these logics and through studying and these texts, then we can develop a certain recognition that that all dharmas are like this, that all phenomena are like dreams and illusions. And so we can have this certain recognition of the emptiness of all phenomena, of the nature, of the Dharma nature of all phenomena. And so this way of developing this recognition is called taking inference as the path.
Tene da tejendo tanda nibate tanda tene ngasam lamda se pasungi warela tene te jipa lamda se pekapsala somlo tani palchir tende ji imbanda tende ji re sombe semje namto na ji charge war ta tel ngaran tenchi se gre senji ngol ji charge war la tene tanda ngaran ngasam lamda se pate ta telo naro sarahala sope mengorela tene tela jipa lamda se gi yo mare ta te chuni je dembate ngasam ta ta gi yo ngus nyam su nyong ga tap ji nang gi yo tene te nyuro ga lamde ngus nyam su nyong ga tap te tene ta kan de nang gi yo se na tene tela chi yol ji no ta no sem je chargoti number ni ware la ti no ni chi yolji no ti ta chitang no shargi ware ti na ya ti ge nengo chimbora yomare ta nengo de kan tu ge ware sin na sem jin chargoti la tu ge ware tene zawa ngaranzu gewa megewa tene nyemompa tene tepa tong mugu lasobe tene lam tang korwa ge jenyen te kanga kana ra lege yore sene sem la ra lege yore tene sem korang te tang ngaranzu tu jondu sem la somlo hiro tange yo mare sem sengi te yo ngupo re te dembar tuba re dodo rabo je yo re samba je tene jiba lamda se pe kabla ina ya sem sengi te hipa sarik namba yo re sini ngu zang jaban rabo je re te ina ya ngu sam lamda se pe kasu ngu ni sem te kanando sem te kandendo tawe kapsala tene ribi tachi si maguba sen korang ngo de rangin ki tomba imba tang tomba te yang namka tomba tabo tang bamboo tomba ma imba tene te salrik tang tempe tomba nye ji nelu je tak sen korang ngo de machu pala tawe kapsala tende je yo la tene te la ta honde te la ta ne tene chuni je demba de ngon chege yore la te la mikpi jing sung yore.
The second way is to take direct perception as a path, to look directly at phenomena. And so when we do the first method, the inference, we get the feeling that mind pretty much is like this. This is pretty much how it is, and we think it's probably like this. This is how things are. This is what the nature of things probably is. And so this meaning appears to our mind. But when we follow the path of taking direct perception as the path, then we are following the oral instructions of Tilopa, Naropa, and Saraha, and so forth, and all these people. And so in these, what we are doing is not using inference. We are not using our logic and inference to find out what things are like, but rather we are looking directly to see what the nature of things is. And so this is called the quick path or the fast path. Now when we look, there are two different things that we can look at. We can look at external appearances, and we can also look at the internal mind. And when we look at the external appearances, there isn't any particular pith to it, or there isn't really any real meat to it, to be too colloquial, but any real meat to it that we can really say. It's really hard to see that. But when we look at the mind itself, there is this sort of meat or this sort of pith to it that we can see, and we can see that this sort of and the reason that there is that sort of important point that we can see is because the mind is what is the source of all of the qualities, all of the good things that happen in our lives. It is also the source of all the problems, all the faults and difficulties that we might have. And these all, if you ask, what do all our qualities and what do all our faults depend upon? They all really depend upon our mind. And so there is something here that we can come to know, and so we can look at it, and we can come to see what it is, and we can see what it is. Now, normally in our normal lives, we do not particularly think about it. We do not really think about what our minds are like, and we just sort of assume that our mind is something that is kind of solid, that is real, that has this. There is this actual thing that is the mind somewhere, and we just don't really worry about what it's like. We just sort of assume that it is this solid thing. But actually there is something that we can recognize, that we can look at and we can see and recognize. And so in order to do this, we just look directly at the mind itself and we see, well, what is it actually like? Where is it? how does it exist? And we don't do this by logic, but rather by just looking directly at the mind itself. And so when we look at the mind itself, then we see that it is empty. There isn't any solid thing there that we can find, but rather it is empty. But that emptiness is not like the sky, nor is it some sort of inanimate emptiness. It has this quality of clear awareness. And so there's the clear awareness. It is this quality of clear awareness. And we look at the nature of the mind, and when we look without trying to modify it or change it in any ways, then we can see it. And so we look without altering it, and we see it. And so in this way, by looking in this way, we are able to recognize the Dharma nature.
Tene tatila tati ngoti tat ngote nang tene ti ngoti gom tila nyompre yopati tachitang tanda kondo hibe jipa lamdu sepa tabuje yenaya ta no dai lama la tene jipa lamdu sepa te yapore tela somlotan tela ngihiji ni tini tiger rosu rabote tawa jipa lamdasi pe tawa segrela ti tawa te pe yapore de yinayang une nyamling ke kapsala tini jipa la tugyo marela ngansong ke tongyo re ngansong lamdasi din tong kapsala yang kapkala jipa lamdasi pe tawa te kalche gyo re la tini te ngansong lamdasi pe tawa te nyamsu nyong de te la ndang une ta ri nduga manduga tini hakwa tini jipa lamdasi pe tawe ke tena papa pape yul teta ngansong lamdasi pe tawe ke nyong nyamnyong ke nyong ke lam rebu nipo te kuni ta te jipa lamdasi pe kapla tena papju ke tenda te ri nduga 당연서 녀선용 갑라 테리도가 선배게 테니 테 제제도 몬체 반다고 다 텐데 용기 와라 테니 티처나 다단다 테 감지 바제다 테니 테 지바 그 냠뇽데 지바 그 니히 테다 테니 응송 그 냠뇽 니보데 간디린도 테 야보 징어생고 요래.
And so when we recognize the nature of that, that is what we do in meditation, is what we do in our equipoise, in the equipoise of meditation. So when we follow the path of inference and we use the sign lam of appearances to come to an understanding, that is really quite good. We sort of think about how things are, we recognize how things are, and everything goes along the path as it should. And this leads us to a very good view. And so this is really quite good. But when we are meditating, this is not really what we are doing. So it's like when we are following inference, it's like what we are hearing, and then when we are, or what we've heard about, and then when we do the direct perception, it's actually we're just looking directly at it, and we think, well, this is what I have thought about, this is what I've come to certainty about through inference, and this is what I'm seeing, and what are they like? What is it actually like? How is it actually? And so you look directly to see how it is. And so here you take the object of the inference, and then you also take the results of what you're seeing directly. And you sort of think, is this what it is? And you think, oh yes, that is what it is. This is what I have thought about. This is what I have contemplated. And this, what I'm seeing is that. That's exactly what it is. And so you recognize what it is. And so for this reason, there is something that you can meditate upon. And so this is how you use both the inference and the meditation in order to meditate upon. And so you generate certain recognition through the inference, and then you, with direct meditation, you have actual experience of it. You practice it. You have the actual experience of it, and so this, and through that experience, comes what it is that you need, and so you need to identify. That is, you need to be able to identify what is the actual experience and be able to differentiate your actual meditation experience from what it is that you've been contemplating.
Tene yang kap la nguni ge nyamnyong te tene jibo ge koan da boda jibo ge ngihi ri samba da bo norwa yang kap la jibo ge ngihi ton koa te la kapkala koa sigre la koa te la ya nyong yok nyamnyong re sambanda bo tinde norwa yung kre te ina yang uni se du nyamnyong de kandi nyong su nyong du tine uni tekala ta du nyong su nyong du inde che inde nduga tine te la ripi jeba se du koa ngihi inde nduga sambanda bo ta te soso la hin se tup na pe ya po hiro yung re.
When you have the understanding that arises out of ignorance, it's possible that you can be mistaken. When you have the understanding that arises out of inference, it is possible that you might think that it is actually the direct experience that you're having. And so in this way, you might be mistaken. And so really what you need to do is you need to look directly at it, and you need to look directly and see, is it really like this? Is it really like this? And looking directly at that, you sort of get certainty about it. You recognize certainly how it is. And so it's very important to be able to differentiate between the understanding from inference and the direct experience.
Tene ta te jesu la jin yiba te ta tanda tere la jin yiba te tema top jin re la tema top jin se du tene ta tanda uni korwe ge chunong ta tene te ne lu to ba ni te tene pe tho ni bon da tene rei ta mari singin te sem ke ne ta te ka chen che kala kor ne tene tel ka shel kor ne tene ngu bolan zai hiamba che nyemo che ta tende se dun ko walan ro ye ba che ta ti ti se ka nang kor ne sen korang ngo kan den do ta du ti ge ne ta te ha ko ne tene ti ngo rang yin chi tong ba ta ne lu ti tan de nyong su nyong ge yo la ti nyong su nyong ta nyong su ma nyong ni bo te la pe ha chang ge tho ring bo da bo kan ye yo ma re la tini teacher na ta nga gom che gi yin nga che mixal ge ta to pa che jul la che gi yin sam be ge rewa chim bo to pa chim bo da bo che che na ti re do ti te chi drip do yo re ti cheng ta ban da bo che teni ta tel kari gu ge yo re se na ti gom na ya ta sen khorang ngo ge nelu tela jurwa hiron ro ya yo ma re khorang ta ra de ge ma gom na ya sen khorang ge nelu tela jurwa hiro yo ma re sen khorang ge nelu te ti tang po ni ten de yo re tin thong man thong tong hi ma hi ge che par che la ten ne ti nelu ten thong a te tene nyom che par chin je la chi pe ting zen che par chin che ta ti nyom de ma chi pa ti tin khor wen chu non da bo che lan ro ge yo re la tene teacher na ti ge ne ta te ngo hi pa che ngo hi ma hi ge che par ji re ma to tene ti la che misal ge ya po zo pe ja chen po zo tene ge gom da bo ma de la teacher na kam dana la sam na ya re ro jin se ma ko yo me ji ba redo don talwa se teni ter zochu shirara ma se ba sen khorang ne dang kare yimba tingon la teni ye na ye pa ngon yo me na me pa ngon yo teni toni yimba ngon yo salwa yimba ngon do yo ba je la ko de ta tanda tema ta ji.
The fourth of the four conditions for accomplishment or practice is the immediate condition. The immediate condition is that the confused appearances of samsara and the nature of how things actually are really quite near to each other. They're not far to each other. It's really a difference of knowing and not knowing, or knowing and ignorance. And so there's really not a large difference between the two. They're not so far apart. When we turn our attention outwards, we are confused into thinking, into possessing, and into perceiving the various things of samsara that are around us. And yet if we just turn around and look inwards at the essence and see what is the essence like that, then we just see the nature of how things are. We actually experience the essence. We experience the way things are. And this experience is not far apart, is not far away from our confused appearances of samsara. And so for that reason, if we sort of think to ourselves that I am going to meditate, and I'm going to meditate in order to be able to see the Dharma nature. I'm going to get this realization out of my meditation, and we have that sort of a hope and expectation and that sort of fear, then this is something that actually obscures the nature from us. And the reason for this is that when we meditate, there is nothing that changes in essence. Meditation does not change how our essence is. And when we aren't meditating, there is nothing that particularly changes in the way our essence is. It's just the way it is from the very beginning. That it is the same way as it has always been. And the only difference is whether or not we see or don't see the difference. And so if we are seeing it, then that is the deep holding, the realization of the Dharma nature, knowing how things are. And if we don't see it, then that is the confused appearances of samsara, the things that we see all around. And so here we need to realize that there is not a whole lot of difference between the two. We need to recognize that there's not a great difference between the appearances of samsara and the essence. And so that there's no need to try to change anything, to make it into something good, something that we need to, good that we need to meditate upon. If we do that, that is just something that will obscure us and keep us from seeing the nature. And so we just need to look and see what that nature is. And we just turn around and look and see that nature, and we can see that it is something that is empty. And so if we see that, then we just rest within that emptiness. And if we rather see the clarity, then we just rest within that clarity. And that's all there is.
Tene ta thige jinje de hubarela. Tene te nane tanda dangong dehi kai lama kapla. Tene trawa yapo je chonrela. Tene ti trawa te la len salvo je shona pento chegre da tende somson la. Tene perna tanda dangong trawa la. Tene tanda Thrangu Dorje tipa chimbo chu tenzo ta je terawada luso la sanji kama imbanda bo tende aya tawanda bo yoba ta ti sanji ka imente kasanji tup mutup tende chebaranda bo twayo la tini ti topa te salna shira yapo yo renda samsung la tini te ya chitang ta logic on de sena tangbo sanji jamden de ta jagar ke yul u mangada segi ore ta ti doji ding kor ta tende jalbu khap ta nye la so kor na la sanji jamden de se tambi chu chin kolo kor ne ta loma tenzo dracham patho tene gelon samji me chapa mambo chong tene remji pelne tene ta tanda kahi tambi chu de jang chu la ya pelne tene peda tene sopola sopata yang kahi tene tanda jana ta japan la sopata korea la sopala ta teni kashi tanda luo ki chula ma tarne, teni tanda Sri Lanka tang, teni tanda Burma tang, teni Thailand ta tende la rimbi ke tarnro la. Ta te tarwa te pe yapore. Sanji chomden te chikatma me pa kanga sanji ki chue te tarne. Teni memambu ke nyamlen se, memambu ke tusam se, nyamlen se pa la teni mambu ke drevu top pe cheparjin chongyo ware kanga la.
Well, that completes the discussion of the 4 different conditions. And now, yesterday afternoon, someone asked a question that was really quite good. It was a very good question. And this is a question about the Lama of the words of the Bliss-Gone, or the Lama of the words of the Buddha. And it was a very good question. And so it really deserves a very clear answer, a very good answer. And so Rinpoche thought that, and the question was generally, when we have the Dharma of the secret mantra Vajrayana and the great vehicle or Mahayana, then the people in the Theravada tradition often say that, or the people in the foundation vehicle might say that this is not actually the words of the Buddha. These are not the words of the Buddha. And so how is it that we can distinguish what are the words of the Buddha? And so this is a really very good and very important question, and Rinpoche thought that to give a clear answer to that would be quite important. And so in terms of the history, the Buddha taught the Dharma first in the land of Magadha, which is in India. It's the area around Bodh Gaya, where also there's Rajgir and the other cities, Nalanda and other cities. These are in the area of Magadha. And so this is the area where the Lord Buddha appeared and where he turned the wheel of Dharma. And as a result of him turning the wheel of Dharma, there were many people who attained the state of Arhat. There are many people who became monks and nuns, and so the Dharma spread throughout this area. And then gradually the Dharma continued to spread, and some of it, and it spread to the north. And when it spread to the north, it spread to Tibet, Mongolia, China, Japan, and Korea. And then also the Dharma spread to the south. And when it spread to the south, it spread to Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, and those countries. And so in all of these countries where it spread, it was really quite good. It's a wonderful thing that the stainless words of the Buddha spread to so many different lands. And as a result of it spreading to so many different lands, many people have had the opportunity to listen to the Dharma and contemplate the Dharma, and then to meditate upon the Dharma and to attain the benefits and the results of Dharma practice. And so this is all really quite wonderful.
Tene hinaya ta tanda pe saja chimbola pelntro du tene tela saja mandawa losol mandawa tene tela tene keri mandawa tene ta te keri keri lanjur keri lanjur tene mangbo jorndo kapsala tene sharchu jangchu la tarwe ke chu te la tene lojo la ye pe ke me ke jushi ro me pandabo lojo la tarwe ke chu te la jangchu la ye pe chu tenzu chu pa tenzu jushi ro me pa ta ti kap dana la ngaran so tingsang nang king ke tene telephone da nomru ke rojo da tene email ta ya ndabo ta tinde khaya yo mare la tene ta tige tene pachu megi junrunda bote ya hiro yo mare ta locho ne changcho lan ro nyungking me yo mare changcho ne locho lan ro nyungking me yo mare la tene kechanyin kecha chegi chelandro teya keri mandawa landro kecha nyendi tel kapkala pe yapu yore si pe tera chimotang ta changcho la locho baga kona changcho la tawe chue tel pe mesi pe yapu ore locho changcho mege 고두 때라 로쇼라 예비 추티 빼면서 배야보래 야보 대선 매발라요 답에 뭐지 챔버시 빼면서 배야보요래 생긴 양갑갈 깨차 친절 로반도 되들 로쇼라 예비 메가 고디 샤쇼 장쇼라 예비 추티서 대선 야보요 배 두고요 배장요래 정초라 예비 메가 로쇼라 예비 추티 야 야보요 말에 배 두고요래 생긴다고 근데 깨찬다 뭐다 Tini demba imba tang kecha demba maimba mambo dogo kwa.
However, the Dharma spread into many different countries, many different lands, where there are many different customs and cultures and many different languages. And so the Dharma was translated from one language into another language, and then from that language into another language, and then from that language into another language. And so the Dharma was transmitted in these different ways to these different places. And so these lands are very far apart. And so at that time, there was not, the lineage that passed down to the south really did not get passed up to the north. And the lineage that was passed up to the north did not really get passed down to the south. And so this was a time where it was unlike our modern era. In these days, we have telephones and we have airplanes and we have email, and they didn't have any of that. And there were only a few people who had miraculous abilities, and so there really wasn't much opportunity for people to have a lot of conversations back and forth from the north to the south. There weren't so many people who went from the northern lands to the southern lands, nor were there a whole lot of people who went from the southern lands to the northern lands, and so there was not a lot of connection between the two. Now there was some conversation that, word that got from from the north to the south and word that got from the south to the north. There were these sort of conversations or messages that got back and forth, but they got sort of changed over time. And so sometimes people in the south would hear, oh, the Dharma from the north is really good. It's really great, it's really wonderful. And so then the people in the north would hear, oh, the Dharma in the south is really good, it's really wonderful and quite good. And so then occasionally, the right message would get across, the truth would get across to the north. But sometimes things would get mixed up and mistaken. And so sometimes you'd hear in the north, and the people in the north would hear, oh, the Dharma that they practice in the south is no good. It's really quite bad. It's no good at all. And the people in the south would hear, oh, that Dharma they practice in the north, that's no good either. That's terrible. It's not something we should practice. And so they got mixed up in this way.
Tene 알아서 단단하게 tene 제 내수 자산 히트바 로쇼베 tene 장초가 내수 자산 히트바 장초가 로쇼가 내수 자산 히트바 tene 정요 말해라 다디 게임 만다와가 라와 전부 그 거네 파준리 마도바 사다원 장부 tene 감바보니 로마도바 tene 다 tene 세두베 가와 전부지 jenkin hirop mepa tindindabo ta tingsang ka kapsula chasang te yeba yindu te la tang nguma ke kotopo ndapo mepa tini samba jachimbo yinba te senda tini tanda tambi chue te ta kanga changchu la tarwa te yabo yinba lojo la tarwa te yabo yinba te tini hiju te kalchimbo re la tini tiga chasang kandre tarwa te jay senjin la pen tongkin tini tanda causal susu ki nyamlin chen na drebu toju yonkin yinba te hitoba te kalchewa re la tini te teacher na te la jay kangala tepa tanga tono seju te pe kalchewa re la teni te la himju chenkin kahi ke teni te si jen rabu chung chung che iyo na ta te chenpo zo ne te chenpo zo de te la teni ngarang che deb drinking pe kebrajin chogre somne ta tel jan yore tel te si tindragmare tel jan yore si trena tini kahi tindi kong da wo yore te ina tenzu gi ji so ma ju ba ngone tambi chu te ta sanji chom den de ji sumba hyalne sumba ina yong rong ngus hyalne ma sung ina yong rong te ta tambi chu dong tamba senjin la pen to ba ji in bicherna tini te be chebar ji ba tende ngunzin tup na pe yabu yung kare.
So that was not a time back then like it is now when we could, so in these days we can know how things are, we get news from, all the news from different areas, and we can know what's happening in different parts. But back then, it was not like that. The difference between the South and the North was too great. There were too many barriers of different languages and different places. It was too far away, and there weren't a lot of people who would pick up and move from one place to another. It was too difficult to do that, too far away, and there were not so many people who would undergo such difficulties in order to do that. And so there was this confusion that arose. But nowadays, there's no need to have any such confusion like that. And the reason is that we can look and see for ourselves that the Dharma that spread to the north is good, and the Dharma that spread to the south is good. And we can look at this, and it is important to know this. It is important to know that it is good, that all of the Dharma that spread, whether it spread to the south or whether it spread to the north, is Dharma that is beneficial for sentient beings. It is Dharma that will help sentient beings, that will help them overcome their suffering. And so it is all very good. It is very important to have this. And so it is important that we have faith and that in all the Dharmas, and that we view all these different Dharmas with pure appearances. Now, it's possible that some people might find some small little problem or fault to criticize in something, and then they might think, well, we'll make this into something. I can write a book about it, and I can become famous, and this will turn out well. And so you might have this temptation to take some small little problem in some piece of Dharma and make it into something big. But you should not give in to such temptation to do anything like that. Rather, you should realize that all of this Dharma that is taught is something that was taught by the Lord Buddha. This is all something that is beneficial, and this is all the teachings of the Lord Buddha.
Tene ngadu chuti te som shona gomte sijapna tene tanda gonda korla tene hine de ta chitang ngui la hine to hong ni ye bena ne hine de tugrela tene terin te som shona terin ngadu.
So we will leave our Dharma session here for this morning. And now in the afternoon session, we have completed the discussion of the preliminaries here, so we will come to the discussion of the main practice. And the main practice has two different parts. It has the discussion of tranquility or shamatha and the discussion of insight or vipassana. And so we have come to the discussion of tranquility, which we will begin this afternoon. And now we will do a bit of meditation.
So